So I would have throws another curveball at us this chapter with having Lucci and the CP0 come to basically take out Vegapunk with the Kuma. And I know in a previous video I talked about Kuma's original consciousness probably being in the Seraphim. I didn't go into a lot of detail about that because it's just an off the top theory. I don't really have like any evidence to back it up. It's just me talking shit, which is what most of this video is. Most of these videos are. Let's be honest, it's just me throwing ideas at the wall. And but I do want to talk about this because I talked about, Egghead being the culmination of the journey from Logtown, or to kind of contrast the journey from Logtown where Luffy fought Smoker before he went into the Grand Line, and Luffy will fight Smoker again when he's a Yonko, and Dragon might show up again, maybe not to save Luffy again or something like that, or not even just to save him. He might show up to parallel the arc, and maybe we'll finally get to see Dragon. And that was my idea in a week or two ago when I talked about this topic. But now when we see Lucci, I feel like it's this arc might be a parallel to Enies Lobby, right? It might talk about the contrast between the fight between Luffy and Lucci originally, between the new fight, which I believe will happen. Because obviously, Enies Lobby, there's markers in Luffy's journey, right? We've got Logtown, which is his first time going out to the Grand Line. We've got Alabasta, which is his first time taking down the big bad. But a big thing about Enies Lobby was it the first time he was considered a captain in the eyes of the readers, really, because he had to take responsibility for the lives of his crew, and he had to go save someone, and he had to experience that loss, and he had to get stronger because of it, right? Luffy became a proper captain in Enies Lobby. So in a way you could say it was the proper start to his journey, or the proper start to when he became a true captain and it was a true pirate crew, was when Enies Lobby happened, right? You could argue that. So when he becomes a Yonko, the second highest position you can have in the One Piece world as a pirate, and like his journey is culminating in this saga, you're like, okay, what's the best way to do that? We parallel Enies Lobby. We have characters show up that were involved in Enies Lobby. We have fights be repeated and turn out different ways, and I think it'd be really cool to see, to be honest with you, especially with Rob Lucci being involved with the Celestial Dragons. I think with Rob Lucci showing up, we do know that Vegapunk is going to become an ally of some sort, because I feel like that's how the fight's going to happen, right? They're going to fight in the sense where they're going to be trying to protect Vegapunk once they hear about Bonnie, and Vegapunk talks about his relationship with Kuma and why he did what he did. And I think it's going to be interesting because what we might see, and I know I talked about in a previous video, Zoro fighting Kuma, a rematch fighting the Seraphim Kuma. But what we might see is Luffy fighting Lucci in Gear 5th, which will be wild, by the way. How is Lucci going to go from Gear 2 Luffy fighting to like Gear 5th, or even just base Conqueror's Hockey Luffy? Like, that's going to be wild shit, and I'm looking forward to it. But I do want to see that personally. But anyway, here's my fight, like my round of fights for the series, or for this arc, really. I actually don't think Sanji might fight. I think they're going to focus on 3 core fights, which are Luffy versus Lucci, and Zoro versus Kaku, because you get to parallel those 2 fights. And actually, you might have Sanji fight Stussy. Obviously not actually fight her. It might be, again, a parallel to the next fight, where he doesn't fight her, and Nami has to fight. That might be it. And we get to see Nami's power with Zeus and how she's a stronger character. Because I've said this multiple times, although the anime made the fight better, the ulti Nami and Usopp fight was terrible in the manga, and still wasn't great in the anime. Because Nami did nothing. She got carried by Big Mom's amnesia bullshit, which we could go on about for days, right? That could be something we talk about all the time, but I'm not going to do that today. My point being is, to me, those 3 fights are going to be paralleled. And who might, if the Kuma thing, if it's revealed that deep down in the Seraphim Kuma is the actual Kuma's personality and the actual Kuma's brain, we might see Bonnie fight Kuma, quote unquote, to try and basically take him out. Resurface his memories and actual personality through fighting him, kind of like what Ivankov tried to do in the Marineford War, but this time it's Bonnie, someone so close to him that they're children. Do you know what I mean? They relate to them by blood, and they were raised by them, and like, so in that regard, she's like, I gotta do this, right? This is how he's gonna get his memories back. Now, I don't know, there might be some Vegapunk bullshit that sorts this stuff out, and Sanji might have an opponent of his own. Hell, the Vegapunk too, because it's the, quote unquote the evil Vegapunk that everyone's going looks like Sora. We could have a situation here where Sanji has to fight this Vegapunk too. We find out that the whole idea of let's say Mr. Morge's theory about Sanji's mother being based off Vegapunk 2 and it being the evil Vegapunk, quote unquote. Let's say she sides with the government, right? And Sanji has to fight Lilith, or I'm just gonna call it Sora for now, and imagine that crushing conclusion to his character arc where he has to fight someone who looks like his mother. Like, that would be insane, and such a great way to like finish his arc and make him understand Germa fully and the history behind it. And I feel like that'd be great. Now, obviously, to be honest with you, I didn't even think about the Sora connection until I watched the Mr. Morge video. So I'll prep to that. But like, what I'm saying here is that I think personally that if we got a thing where Sanji fights Stussy and Nami takes over, that'd be great. Right? That'd be cool. But if it's more of a thing now where maybe Robin fights Stussy, because they're both kind of underworld boss women, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. Nami was part of Mr. Zero's organization, and Stussy's like undercover marine in the underworld. So that sort of deal. Right? And maybe what we have is Sora and Lilith and Sanji fight each other, right? Or Lilith is fighting Sanji, and because he knows what Lilith is based on and everything to do with Lilith because of the information Vegapunk told him previously, now he can't fight him, and he's like taking the hits and he's getting destroyed, and he's just thinking about his mother, and his character is like crumbling, you know what I mean? This is like the culmination of the last 3 arcs and his entire self-doubt and everything that's happened, and him having to accept the Germa and then becoming his own man but not fully yet. And then the character who has had the most impact on his life, Nami, comes in, saves the day, and takes out the Lilith, right? And has a proper fight with them. Basically talks about how important Sanji is to her and to the crew, and reaffirms how important Sanji is to him, and basically she's like, cop onto yourself. You know, we might even have a thing where Lilith, being the quote unquote evil version of Vega, the evil part of Vegapunk or something like that, right? That's what Lilith is, right? Let's say she has information on Sora, and she knows Sanji is the son of Sora. Maybe she pulls at those strings. Maybe she pretends to have the memories of Sora and basically shits on Sanji. Maybe that really hits him, and maybe Nami pushes back and is like, no. And then she is the person who slapped him in Whole Cake Island and told him he was being a fucking idiot, you know, and he needs to cop on, is going to do it as well when he's at his lowest low. And then we'll finally have that complete Sanji arc, and I think it will be done excellently. And honestly, to complete Sanji's writing at the final saga in this way would be beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, to be honest with you. And I'm excited. I really am. I'm really excited to see where this goes. All these fights could be really, really interesting. The Rob Lucci and Luffy fight could really build up to a really interesting dynamic between the two, because it's a small level of respect based on their previous fight. Same with the Kaku Zoro fight, and Zoro might get we might see Zoro's full potential after what happened with Enma. It's an interesting thing. Hell, we might even have the return of the Usopp sword. You know what I mean? That shit might be super, super cool. And I'm really excited to see how it's handled, to be honest with you. I think the Sanji stuff is what excites me most. I have no idea what Frankie could do. Because we do need a Frankie fight. I'm not going to sit here and say we don't. This is really Frankie's arc, right? It's Frankie and Sanji's arc. So we need a Frankie fight. I just don't know where that comes in. Because I don't think if I have the chapter up here, so we're going to actually just look at it again. Because I could have been talking bullshit the entire time. Because we have a diagram of all the... Where is it? We have a diagram of all the Vegapunks. And I'm pretty sure... Yeah, Vegapunk 2 is the evil Vegapunk, yeah. So my whole theory about Vegapunk 2 siding with the government, basically. And that sort of deal. And the rest of them, basically turns on the rest of them, I think will work brilliantly. I will say, though, which one will Frankie fight? That's very tough, because Frankie has to fight someone, but I don't know if any of the other Vegapunks will turn on anyone. And it only seems like he's bringing 3 CP0 members, so I can't really tell who the hell Frankie would fight. But Frankie needs to have a good fight in this arc, because it feels like it's going to be a Frankie arc. So I have no idea. I've talked so much about these fights and how excited I am to see them, and the proper Yonko display of the Straw Hats, but I don't know who Frankie could fight. Like, he didn't even fight someone that... He fought the green-haired fella in Enies Lobby, but that was more Chopper's fight. Because he went Monster Point and went crazy. So it could be a thing where Vegapunk experiments with the Rumble Ball and turns Chopper mad, and Frankie has to sort it out. That's what I'm saying. My whole linchpin of this idea is everything is paralleling Enies Lobby now, right? But this time Robin is with the crew, and maybe we might even touch on that. You know, Robin is with the crew and she's taking on Stussy, and then we get different parallels. We get the Rob Lucci versus Luffy fight. We get the Kaku versus Zoro fight. We get the Sanji and Nami versus the Lilith Vegapunk. You know, to basically just parallel the arcs, and I feel like maybe Frankie might fight Chopper. Chopper's like insane version of Monster Point. Maybe to calm him down, and then he gains control over this. Maybe we see how his Chopper's mental strength allows him to gain back control, and maybe he'll gain Monster Point for real that he can do on his own now after this, and we might see something like that. I don't know. As I said, I'm throwing ideas at the wall because I'm just like, I think this Enies Lobby, the Enies Lobby contrast idea is perfect. I originally thought Log Town, but I'm kind of leaning towards Enies Lobby now with Lucci showing up. And I'm really excited to see how it is handled.